Hello guys, welcome back to our YouTube channel. In this video we are gonna see, what if Naruto was the Phoenix Dragon and got Harem? Part 2. If you want more awesome fan fiction like this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. So without wasting any time, let's get into the video. Underworld. Several high-class families, mostly lords and their wives, gathering together for a celebration event. In the Phenex castle, many servants are moving around serving the lords and ladies of the remaining 72 pillars. As the high-class devils gathered together in the banquet room where the festivities are taking place, the people that already arrived started to chat with each other. In the private dressing room is the soon-prepared bride-to-be. Alone in a room, Rias sat in front of a mirror disc as she looked at herself. Rias mentally agreed with herself that the wedding dress fitted her perfectly and showed off her well-toned body, highlighting her beauty even more. However, her facial expression shows that the crimson hair princess wasn't happy in the fact on who she was going to be wearing it for. Flashback. In the occult research building, Ria's face was both annoyed and frustrated while crossing her arms under her large bust as she stood her ground at the side in front of her. Standing behind her was, currently, her entire peerage as she looked at the person that was making their king look angry. In front of Rias stood her fiancé, Phenex. Phenex is a tall 5'11" handsome young man in his early 20s with short blonde hair and dark blue eyes. He's wearing a burgundy blazer with gold embroidery on the right with matching pants and black dress shoes. Underneath his open blazer is a white dress shirt that is not fully buttoned, giving a slight view to his chest. Even though Riser has changed physically over the years, his mentality is still the same arrogant, aggressive playboy with holier-than-thou personality condescending towards lower-class devils. The reason why Riser was here in Kuo Academy was to take Rias back to the underworld to prepare for their wedding, which he looked forward to. Her peerage, besides Akeno, were surprised to hear about the fact that Rias was engaged to marry him, but learned that it was an arranged marriage, against her will. Rias, how about we go and check out the place that is being prepared for our wedding? We should see how the setting is being turned out. Riser suggested to the redhead Gremory. Riser, I have already told you already that I'm not going to marry you. Do you understand that? Rias furiously stated at him. Now Rias. You say that like you have a choice. Riser said with an amused tone of voice, we both know there isn't much you can do. Both our families have already decided on this and the contracts has been rewritten. Don't forget that your family has been just as hasty to unite our two houses as mine. He completely stated to her. Don't speak so presumptuously. As the heir of the Gremory family, I'm the only one who will decide it on who I'll be marrying to. Regardless, if it wasn't for what our families did, then I would happily marry into the Phoenix family. Rias stated while placing her hand on her chest where her necklace piece rested. Hearing Rias say that she would gladly marry into the Phoenix family if it wasn't for some changes, but wondered on what happened and why she was so angry about it now. Akeno and Kaneko already knew since Akeno had her hand on her ring finger, gently touching the crystal gem ring on it, while Kaneko remembered the ring she kept in her drawer. Riser saw Rias placing her hand on her chest, which he knew why. Deciding to point it out, he looked at the female redhead. Why don't you just forget about him? Getting a surprised look from Rias, he ran away from his responsibilities, which should have been placed upon me in the first place, since I am more fitted for this occasion than he is. Riser stated. Rias angrily stared back at him. He didn't run away. Unlike you, he went to find his peerage and train hard to achieve his dream. Personally speaking, he is more worthy on being my husband than you are at being fit to be called a Phoenix. Besides, he promised me that he'll come back during my spring term of my final year. And when he comes back, everything will be restored as it should be. She stated to him, where Riser narrowed his eyes at being told that he wasn't worth being called a Phoenix unlike him. Restoring his poker face, he looked at the Gremory heiress with his usual confident smirk. I don't think so, since if he did promise you that, then he should be here now. Or for a matter of fact, why hasn't he come to visit you over the years? Riser questioned her. Then flashback. Rias and Riser had argued with each other, where Riser even threatened on extinguishing her peerage to assure that he'll bring her back to the underworld to make her his bride. As things intensified, Grafia, who acted as the third party of this meeting, had interrupted the two. Hearing as the meeting wasn't going well, Grafia announced a rating game to settle the issue. Rias accepted it since it would give her a chance to free herself from the arranged marriage, but knew if she lost, she would be forced to marry Riser right away. Hearing Rias accepting the rating game challenge, Riser summoned his own peerage, a total of 15 pieces, all women. It was around this time that he riled up Issei, Rias' newest and only pawn, where he flirted and made out with his queen. Once everything was set, Riser allowed Rias 2 weeks to train her peerage, where they trained very hard. Unfortunately, though, through lack of battle experience and such, Rias had lost her first game and freedom, where she was now in this situation. As she looked at herself, she brought her hand to her chest again, where she held her crystal gem necklace, as she recalled not only her best male friend, but also the one that she'd fallen in love with. She remembered when he told her that he was leaving, which she was sad about it. It made her heart ache since she already had a crush on him, since he always cheered her up, always treated her as a friend, cared about her and her wishes and dreams. Unlike other devils, Naruto was the only one that only ever called her Rias, nothing more nothing less. Plainly calling her Rias just meant that he only viewed her as herself. Naruto was also someone who didn't care about titles and such, where he even called and talked to the Satans, mostly Surziches, in a friendly manner or gesture in front of high-class devils, or simply calling him idiot or something as a nickname, showing that he doesn't fear status, but didn't care about it either. Her trip down memory lane ended when she heard that she was being summoned now where her parents are waiting for her. Slowly getting up, she started to head out where each step she took knew that her life was close to being stolen from her. Phenex Castle. In the banquet room, many devils waited for the party to truly begin. Among the crowd was Ria's own Peerage, Akeno and everyone else from the ORC. As they waited, their faces carried a frown since they weren't in the mood. The reason they had a depressing mood was because their king, Rias, is now being forced to marry Riser Phenex. Out of all of them, Issei was the one that felt the most depressed and frustrated since he was the last one to help Rias win, but he was taken out by Riser. Issei fought well with a struggle against Riser's Peerage, but when he faced against Riser, it was where he met his match. Issei had tried to use his boosted gear to fight against Riser, but he had used the dragon's power that was inside his sacred gear, too much so his body was spent. Riser proceeded to beat him into a bloody pulp where the fist fight forced Rias to quit since Riser wanted to make Issei both an example and his power by killing through his injuries. Once the raiding game has ended, Rias was taken by both her and the Phenex family to get her ready for the wedding. Her Peerage was taken to a special recovery room where they got treated for their injuries. Having recovered, all of them were soon fitted for the engagement party where it will lead to the wedding immediately. Both Issei and Kiba were wearing tuxedos, while Asia and Kaneko were wearing string dresses that reached above their knees and Akeno wearing a kimono. Their thoughts about the raiding game and Ria's engagement ceremony stopped when they heard a familiar voice comforting them. "You all did pretty well in your fight against Riser." They turned to see a young bespectacled woman in her late teens with a slim figure. She had a black, short bob-cut hairstyle and violet eyes. She wore an elegant string dress short that went down to her knees. This was Sona Citri, the heiress of the Citri family of one of the 72 pillars of the Devil Society. Next to her was another young bespectacled woman with long straight black hair that extends all the way down to her knees, with split bangs and heterochromic eyes, violet left eye and a light brown right eye. She was also wearing an elegant string dress, but hers is light blue, while Sona is violet. Getting their attention, Sona continued on too with her opinion. "If Rias had another piece or two, she might have won," Sona said. "Yeah, but it doesn't help us now. Rias is about to be forced to go through this now," Issei stated. Everyone was about to continue before they heard the voice of the person that they detested now. "Ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you to this exquisite moment. The moment where I, Riser Phenex and Rias Gremory have vowed to marry each other," Riser said with a stoic voice. The guests applauded the young man about his engagement since Rias Gremory was indeed a fine woman to marry with. As the people continued to applaud the young man, many talk about the raiding game, where some of Riser's Peerage commented that Riser knew that he was going to win, where Riser also noted the same thing. "Look at him, he doesn't see on how close of a match it was," Kiba remarked. "True, but right now this is going to be an annoyance from this point," Sona suggested. Growling a bit, Issei outburst to his group, "How can we just sit here and do nothing? Let's try and do something to prevent this," he suggested, but Sona shook her head in disapproving. "Unfortunately, there isn't anything else you can do. It's a shame really since I know that Rias wouldn't mind being part of the Phenex family, but not like this," Sona said. "Oh no, what do you mean? I thought Rias detested on being part of the Phenex family," Asia asked out in confusion. "It's not that she detests the Phenex family. It's just that it's the wrong person," Akeno said. Issei, Asia, and Kiba were curious about it. Akeno explained that after Rias had met with Kiba, around the same time someone else left. That person was not only Ria's true fiancé, but also her best friend and true crush. That person is Naruto Phenex, the youngest son of the Phenex family. They were so surprised to know that Rias was in love with someone already. They also learned that Naruto had left the underworld nearly 8 years ago for his own training and searching for his peerage, which his parents doesn't know on where he is since he left in secret. "I can't believe that Butchu is in love with someone already," Issei muttered as he had tears run down his eyes, knowing that Ria's heart already belonged to another. "Hi, the proof about their feelings for each other is around her neck," Akeno said. Akeno described that Naruto had given Rias a beautiful pendant that he made by using his own powers. They know on what pendant that Akeno was talking, since every one of them saw her hold a crystal gem pendant while she sat behind her desk sometimes. Akeno and Sono also showed them that they also had something similar, crystal gem rings that they both wore, since they were good friends with him. Well, Sono viewed it that way, but Akeno had a small blush as she viewed her ring. Even Kaneko stated that she had one but never worn it, since she outgrew the ring finger but kept it safe. Before anything else could be said, they all heard Rias's voice getting their attention. "Ladies and gentlemen. Please welcome my bride-to-be and future mother of my children, Rias Gremory," he announced. In a crimson magical circle that appeared next to him, Rias magically appeared from the teleportation wearing the white wedding dress that she was given, while still wearing her crystal gem pendant. Rias gently took Rias' hand where he guided her towards both their parents. The crowd dispersed, giving the two a pathway to their destination. As they walked, Rias kept her head down, not wanting to see her parents. Reaching them, Rias and Rias bowed a bit before he turned to Rias. "Now then, my love, let us enjoy our moment together, since after tonight we'll be as one. Since you are now my wife, forget about your worries and enjoy the moment. That also means it's time to get rid of that pendant," Rias said where he saw her looking at the pendant that his younger brother had given to her. Rias looked objective where she was going to voice out her thoughts, but Rias simply took hold of the pendant, tugged the strap where it broke, and tossed the pendant aside. Rias just looked stunned since it signaled to her that it was over, her life, her future, her dreams were now over. Just before they were going to move forward to the wedding ceremony, the large double, wooden doors that was both the entrance and exit to the banquet suddenly exploded with tremendous force that it broke the hinges, causing the doors to fall onto the floor. Everyone's attention and guard were now at the explosive entryway, wondering on what was going on. Rias was the first to step forward, who dares defy this momentous ceremony. With a growl of anger in his voice. Following closely by his peerage, where they were ready to assist their king. But before the dust could even settle, a sudden burst of power came out of nowhere where it hit Rias straightly at his face, sent him flying back, sliding on the ground in an unceremonial fashion. The Phenex guards came to the entryway where they shouted to the intruder to stand down. It was only when they finished ordering the intruder to surrender that everyone heard a strong voice from out of the dust cloud. "How about I order you to stand down since I have a few things to discuss with my brother," said the intruder with a snarl at the end. It was only after hearing that people looked confusedly as they heard the calm yet loud footsteps making their way into the banquet hall. It was only when he stepped into the light that everyone can now see on who it was, wearing casual street clothes, walking forward. Walking calmly, an intense aura that affected the lower high-class devils was let out every time he took a step closer to the center stage, while still having his eyes glaring at Rias, who got back up. As everyone still had a look of confusion, looking closely at the young man's appearance, Lord and Lady Phenex just gained a stunned look at who it was walking towards them. Rias and Ravel looked confused, while Rias couldn't help but let out tears of disbelief, since she couldn't believe that he came back now. Once he made it 5 meters away in the front of the stage, he looked at both the Gremory and Phenex families. "Hello mother, hello father, Naruto Phenex, has returned," Naruto simply stated with a monotone look. Hearing the introduction to himself in front of his family, this got all the high-class devils to spontaneously chat among themselves, seeing that the runaway son of the Phenex family has returned. While the guests chatted, both the Gremory and Phenex family take a good look at him. Really observing on Naruto's physique, they can tell that he has completely changed from the little boy that they once knew him. The one thing that hasn't changed was his eyes, still focused and determined. Once the dramatic entrance ended, the only person to actually move was Rias, who slowly moved her legs, take a small step before finally just lifting the front of her dress, where she just sprinted to him where she jumped on him, wrapping her arms around his neck as she cried out. "Naruto-kun, you're finally back, I missed you," Rias stuttered out as her tears fell from her eyes as she was both happy and relief, knowing that Naruto was here in front of her, not in her dreams or imagination. "Sorry if it took me so long to come back to you. But I'm here now and that's what it matters, so relax. I'll first settle things here before we can continue with our reunion," Naruto said where he gently removed Rias from him as he moved forward with Rias by his side. Calmly moving forward, Naruto swiftly and mysteriously removed his Wrangler jacket and turned it into a cape as it hung on his shoulders, revealing his bandaged forearms. Walking closer to his destination, he sensed that Rias was walking alongside him where he lifted his hand in front of her to signal her that he wanted to handle this himself. Rias was about to object but saw the look in his eyes, saying that this wasn't a request as he only had eyes on facing his brother by himself. Yamayugi jacket wear. Stepping onto the platform, he now stood face to face in front of Rias, who also looked enraged, considering that the two brothers were narrowing their eyes to each other. Everyone stayed silent as the two siblings looked at each other. Naruto was the first to break the silence. "Hello brother, it's been a while," plainly stated. Yes, it has, and fortunately you've returned in a very joyous occasion at mine and Ria's marriage ceremony. Riser stated with a grin. Oh really, then my sudden return has been perfectly timed since I came in the right time, smiled Naruto as he closed his eyes before opening them again with a serious look, so I can stop it from happening. He stated with a deep and commanding voice where Riser scowled at him. Both boys looked like they were about to fight each other but relaxed a bit when their father spoke up. Naruto, my son, it's good to see you've returned home after being away for so long. Lord Phenex said with his mother tearfully smiling at her youngest son's return. It's good to see you too, father, mother, and it's even good to see you too, Lord and Lady Gremory, although I'm having a bit of mixed feeling right now considering on what you two are doing to both me and Rias. Naruto admitted without taking his eyes off Riser. Both his and Ria's parents looked a bit ashamed considering that Naruto was talking about the change about him and Rias getting married to Riser and Rias getting married. Before anything could be said by the parents, Riser spoke for them. It's actually a good thing that they change Ria's fiancé. After all, the contract did say that the youngest son of the Phoenix family would marry the Gremory heiress. Since you don't have any of the Phoenix family's abilities, you don't actually qualify since unlike you I'm a true Phoenix who wields the great power. He simply stated. Oh, and what makes you think that you're a true Phoenix? After all, the Phoenix of legend, whose powers greatly surpass our family's, is said to have a soul of fire that can't be burned out. And although I may not have the same abilities as the family have, I do have the soul, which is something that you don't have. Naruto remarked with a grin since he insulted Riser about being a Phoenix. Before things could escalate even further, they all heard a very familiar voice coming towards the two. Oh dear, it looks like we have quite the predicament at hand. The two brothers turned to see Surzich's Lucifer walking up to them with Graphia walking closely by his side. Lord Lucifer, Riser politely greeted, bowing his head lightly. Yo sirs, is Naruto casually greeted with a lazy wave. My, Naruto-kun, it's good to see you again. I can see that the years have been good to you, you've changed impressively. Surzich's cheerfully commented. But I can see that we have a bit of a situation right now. Surzich's stated, which the two brothers just narrowed their eyes at each other. Yes, it seems that my foolish younger brother doesn't know his place and is trying to stop mine and Ria's wedding. Riser commented. The wedding that was originally supposed to be me and her. It was only just recently that I found out about this, where both of our parents didn't even wait for me to return to the underworld to make such a decision. Naruto stated. Surzich's sighed since he told his parents, Lord and Lady Gremory, about making this decision without talking about it with the two parties, namely Rias and Naruto. Of course, it didn't help that half the party, Naruto, went missing for nearly a decade, making Lord and Lady Phoenix believe that Naruto was dead and such. Thinking about it, Surzich's coughed into his hand to clear his throat a bit as well as getting their attention. Well, with the lack of communication and other variables that occurred over the years, I believe I have a proper solution for this. Surzich's simply stated. Before Surzich's could say anything, Riser politely interrupted the Devil King. By all pardons, my lord, why are we even discussing about this now? Since my brother left, a new engagement contract was formed stating that I would marry your younger sister, so that should be the end of it since the old contract is destroyed. Riser pointed out. You mean this one? Surzich's responded as he pulled out the old contract from out of his uniform. Riser and their families looked dumbfounded on what Surzich's pulled out. Surzich's explained that he had Graphia, under his orders, make a copy of the original where he kept the original, while everyone else destroyed the copy one. I figured that Naruto-kun would want to voice out his concern, but knew that the new contract might cause some problems for him to object the situation. So I kept the old one just in case Naruto returned back home before Riser and Rias could get married. Surzich's simply stated with a smile. Everyone looked surprised on how Surzich's read ahead of everyone, where he then got their attention as he continued on from what he originally wanted to say before Riser interrupted him. Alright, as I was saying before, I have a solution to this problem. A rating game is single one-on-one duel between Naruto versus Riser. Of course, if Naruto has a peerage like Riser, then it would be Naruto and his peerage versus Riser with his peerage. Surzich's commented. Naruto and Riser looked at each other, where Riser grinned at his younger brother. I accept those terms, Lucifer-sama. I would defeat my little brother and show him what a true Phoenix can do, as well as putting him in his place. Riser overconfidently stated. I have a peerage, and trust me, when I and my friends get done, you'll know what kind of Phoenix that I am. Naruto responded seriously, where the two glared at each other. Well, then it's settled. I give you two half an hour before you and your peerages begin your match together. Surzich's announced, where Naruto and Riser stepped back to prepare. Before walking away, Naruto turned to Surzich's and Riser as he said one thing to them. Before we begin, the only request that I want in this game is that if I win, both of our contracts to marry Rias is null and void, where she can choose who she should marry. He simply stated. Oh, why would you want that, Naruto-kun? Don't you want to be with my sister? Surziches wondered as everyone was curious about it as well. It's simple really, he started to say as he turned his gaze towards the crimson hair princess in front of him. The only tears a man should give a woman should be tears of joy, not of pain. I gave Rias tears of pain, so I don't have the right to marry her. Simply stated. Hearing Naruto considering her feelings, Rias couldn't help but blush at how Naruto was thinking about her so much that he would null and void their own engagement contract so she can have her freedom. As Naruto was walking away, he didn't respond to his mother and father's calls since he was more focused on one thing. While walking away, he spotted something sparkling where he went and picked it up. 30 minutes later. Naruto and Riser were standing in front of each other where Riser had his peerage stand behind him. Among them, Naruto noticed Ravel was also there where he made it known. Okay, how come Ravel is standing with your peerage? Did you make our little sister part of your peerage? He asked out loud. Riser nodded in confidence where Naruto said, why would you do that? For what purpose? Naruto cried out loud. Ravel kept quiet while having a faint blush on her face. Riser just answered, strategically, our sister is pretty good at strategy where next to my queen, she can make plays for areas where I'm not around. It's even better since her immortality also gives her an advantage on judging other opponents' strengths. Stated the older blonde where Ravel looked serious like she was agreeing with Riser. DSK, yeah right, if I know you well enough, you probably asked her because of some stupid reason like for a fetish or something along those lines. Naruto remarked back. Ravel's face really turned red while she along with the rest of Riser's peerage thought he definitely hit the nail on the head. Knowing that Naruto was right. Well whatever, let's just get our rating game started as I have a honeymoon to get to. Riser simply said as he thought about what he would do with Rias. Me too, I'm going to enjoy beating you and paying you back for all those remarks you gave in the past. It's about time we know what kind of Phenex we both really are. Naruto agreeing with his older brother. Alright then, the field has been set. I'll explain the rules of this match. Surziches said as he took the role of being a referee for this match. The rules are simple, Naruto and Riser would fight each other with their peerages in a simple all-out battle royal, where to win is to simply take out Naruto or Riser regardless if there are still other pieces in the match. There will be no outside help, which includes familiars. Any type of weaponry can be used as long as it is their own and not outside source. Pawns will be limited to 2 promotions, since this would be a quick match. Promotions can happen anywhere without the king's permission. Hearing that, Riser smiled since all 8 of his pawns can promote into queens, where he'll have 9 queens off the bat. Naruto didn't show any reaction to it since he kept a good poker face. Another reason is because he knows that Riser doesn't know on what his peerage could do. Naruto-kun, where's your peerage? Surziches asked kindly. Don't worry about them, I had asked Grafia to prepare a separate teleportation circle to transfer my peerage into the game, since I like to keep them a secret until the last minute. They'll be transported automatically into the game as soon I get there as well. Naruto simply answered. Nodding in acceptance, Surziches looked at the 2 Phenex, alright, with all the rules and stipulations set, let the rating game begin. He stated. The magical circle around the 2 Phenex activated and teleported the 2 into the rating game field. Phenex Castle. Everyone sat or stand, their own preference, as they all looked through the video screens on the commencement results of the rating game. Sitting in one table, Rias was waiting in anticipation on how Naruto was going to fight his older brother, Riser. As the Crimson Princess pondered about it, Akeno and the other members of the ORC with Sona and Tsubaki were sitting along with her, wondering on what's going to happen. I wonder on what's Naruto-kun's game plan. Things could be disadvantage if he doesn't figure out a way to handle his older brother, along with their little sister. Akeno thought out loud. I don't know, but given how he's a battle prodigy it would be interesting to see. Sona reminded the Thunder Priestess. Battle prodigy? Issei wondered as Akeno, Kaneko, and Sona are the only ones, besides Rias, who knew anything about Naruto. Kiba and Asia were also curious, since they don't know anything about Rias' childhood crush. You see, as many of you know, Rias is considered to be a prodigy herself since she earned the nickname, Crimson Ruin Princess. However, her nickname title doesn't mean much since comparing to Naruto's skill set, he was far stronger than Rias was back when they were children. Akeno stated. Hi, Naruto-san is considered a true prodigy since, even though he isn't successful academically because of his lack of care for it, he is very intelligent when it came to making not only strategies before a challenge, but also on-the-fly plans when the situation changes. In fact, he even sparred with Lucifer Sama's pawn, who is one of the top 5 pawns in Devil Society. Sona added into Akeno's statement. Punching Beowulf with his own fist. Kaneko monotone said. Everyone was amazed that Naruto was extremely skilled when he was a kid. Before anything could happen, Surziches announced the commencement of the rating game, where both brothers released their peerage. There goes Riser's peerage. Asia looked concerned. I only hope that Naruto-san has a good peerage with him. Kiba commented as he looked to see that on Naruto's side of the field, there was only one person, standing by his side. The person is a 5'7" feet tall, young, beautiful buxom woman in her late teens with ridiculous curves, given her physique is mostly pronounced by her humongous breasts. She has hazel eyes and long blonde hair that extends down past her waist tied in a ponytail. Several bangs of her hair comes down into her face with 2 bangs coming down at the sides running all the way down, while also framing her face, while revealing her elf ears. She is wearing a light pink short-sleeved jacket over a tight short-sleeved black tank shirt that went down to her waist, while revealing a good portion of her large cleavage. She also wore a white mid-length skirt that reached her knees with great movability, along with a pair of black pantyhose and a mid-calf lace, grey boots. Sugoi. She has the biggest op-eye that I've ever seen. She's even bigger than a Keno-senpai. Issei announced in amazement disbelief as he ogled the blonde woman's body with his usual perverted look. Becky Issei-senpai. Kaneko monotone said while glaring at her senior. Ara Shizuka-chan has grown up from the last time I've seen her. Rias mentioned which Akeno and Sona nodded in agreement, although both Rias and Akeno felt a little threatened on the fact that Shizuka's bust was bigger than their own. Shizuka? Kiba curiously asked. Hi, Shizuka-san is one of Naruto's first pieces and one of his bishops. She's the same age as Rias, Akeno, Tsubaki, and I, as well as a good friend. Sona explained. She's a bishop, Issei repeated when he looked at Shizuka and mentally imagined Asia. Asia is cute and adorable in her own right where Kuo Academy considered her the princess of the second-year students. Shizuka on the other hand would be considered to be the third great lady if she is transferred into it where he couldn't help wonder on what her breasts look and feel like. Seeing the perverted look, Asia, with a bit teary eye, pinched Issei's elbow getting to snap out of it while Kaneko glared at him. In any case, I'm curious on how strong she is. If I remembered correctly, she was training to become a healer. If anything, she might be like Asia-chan with her twilight healing. Akeno wondered out loud. Rating game. As Riser's peerage ran towards Naruto's position, they separated in hopes to surround them, since there isn't any places to hide from. Separating in 3 groups while Yubaluna took into the skies, they made their way towards the other Phenex. Group 1 was being led by Isabella, Riser's rook, which held Cirrus, knight, Lee, Nell, and Shiraya, pawns. Running to cover Naruto's right side, they made it halfway before they had to stop as they come across their opponents. In front of them, 3 people stood against them. Standing in front of the opposing group was the teenage boy with the dog features. He looks the same, except now he was wearing a short-sleeved gray shirt with collar and black pants. In his left arm, he wore a protective gauntlet that was strapped around his chest which covered his shoulder down and white gladiator boots that went up to his mid-thighs. Standing next to him was the vanilla hair blonde, wearing her usual clothing while holding a sheath European medieval sword. Along with them was Hakufu, but she was wearing a black Chinese dress with a red fire pattern that starts off from the waist up and her near her chest. In the middle of her dress was an opening on her chest that revealed a good portion of her cleavage. At both sides of the dress, the slits were cut all the way up until it reached near her waist, allowing a great view of her strong legs while wearing black turf martial arts shoes. An animated Ikitausen Chinese dress on Saku Hakufu 1600x1200 wallpaper 517. As the 2 groups stare at each other, the brunette boy just sigh at the side in front of him. Seeing this, Hakufu simply asked her teammate. Boy Koda-kun, what's wrong? Looking at her unenthusiastic friend. It's just that I was hoping that our first rating game would be against a real opponent. Instead, I'm facing off against a bunch of girls. No wonder Naruto said that I shouldn't come since I won't be able to fight them. He said. What do you mean by that? Naru-chan said that his brother has a total of 15 pieces. That's more than enough for us to fight and test ourselves against. Hakufu simply stated. It's not that, it's just while looking at their opponents with an uninteresting eyes, that they're all girls. He plainly muttered. That's what you're upset about, Kataru-san. You don't seem to have a problem when you fight me or any of the others. Said the vanilla hair blonde. Well, yeah, but unlike you guys, these girls won't stand a chance against us. You guys are strong where I don't have to worry too much since you're all strong in your own right. Kataru replied. Well, I can understand that, said the other blonde before she quickly drew her sword and blocked his way-hander strike that would have taken the 3 out. She held the sword back with one hand as its wielder pushed hard with both of hers. It didn't last long as the blonde quickly parried the sword before giving her opponent a strong kick to her stomach to shove her back to her group. Getting their attention, Hakufu simply looked at them. Now that was rude. Can't you see we were talking over here? She said with an annoyed look on her face. This isn't the time to talk, this is the time to fight and assure that Riser-sama come out victorious. Said Cirrus, the Zweihander owner. She's right, Hakufu Kataru-san, if you wish not to fight these weaklings, then so be it. But if anything, can you at least provide cover for both I and Hakufu? Requested the sword-wielding blonde. Sure, no prob, Kataru agreed where he hopped back from the two. Alright, now with that out of the way, Hakufu, you're ready? Said Naruto's swordsman. Yup, Hakufu gleefully replied as she got into her kung fu stance, while the other blonde just held her sword up vertically at her face. As the two got ready, Riser's group just glared at their opponent since one of them doesn't find it interesting on fighting them while the other two doesn't show much concern. Before we begin, can you tell me your names so that I at least know who my victims would be? Said the medieval sword user. Riser's group growled at that where they all them their names and evil pieces. Knowing their names, Naruto's first group announced themselves. Very well, since you kindly given your names, here's ours. My name is Sylvia Van Hassen, Naruto-sama's knight. Sylvia gracefully introduced herself. I'm Hakufu-san, Sakunari-chan's pawn. Hakufu confidently introduced herself. I'm Kataru Inugami, also Naruto pawn. Kataru simply introducing himself. With introductions done, Isabella looked at Lee, Nell, and Sharia. Alright you three, you know what to do. All three pawns nodded where they all said unison, promotion. Queen. Where all three girls had changed from pawn pieces to queens. Once they changed, the twins magically summoned their chainsaws. Seeing this, Sylvia looked unimpressed as she glanced at her partner. Alright Hakufu, your turn now. Where Hakufu nod with a smirk. Promotion. Rook. Where Hakufu became a rook piece. After waiting a bit, both groups moved against each other. Banquet room. Seeing Riser's pawns become three queens while Hakufu changed to a rook while Kataru just stood back, guests were really intrigued about it. Interesting, Surzicha said where he got his family and Lord and Lady Phenex curiosity. What do you mean, Surzicha-sama? Grafia wondered. It's surprising to see that Naruto-kun's pawn became a rook instead of a queen like Riser-kun's three pawns. I wonder if Naruto-kun figured some of the evil piece's abilities. If he does know, then we're going to be seeing a very interesting game. Surzicha's beepized with a smile. With Ria's group, who were in another table away, they are also curious about what Surzicha's were talking about with his group. I wonder why Hakufu-sen became a rook instead of a queen. The queen is a lot more powerful than a rook. Kiba thought out loud. I don't know, but it would be interesting on what would happen. Tsubaki replied. Riser's second group is now confronting Naruto's second group. Akeno said as their attention turned to the other battlefield in it. Second group. Just like the first group, the second group who were on the opposite side in a distance of the first. Riser's second group was being made up of with the rest of his pawns, Nai, Lee, Marion, Burant, and Mira. The five girls stared down at against three of Naruto's other peerage members. In front of them stood the Chinese sorcerer swordsman with the giant Mexican decent person and the veil-covered woman. Looking at each other, the swordsman was the first to speak up. Well, it's going to be interesting fighting these five girls. Personally, I would have enjoyed it more if they were stronger, but I guess this is a good chance to test myself. Said the chestnut hair boy. Through glancing up to the third teammate, what about you, big guy? Are you alright in fighting against these girls? Yuzu asked. Not really, but Naruto is fighting to help his friend. So I'll fight them. Of course, I'll have to hold back so not to hurt them much. Said the tall Mexican person. Alright then, Chad, just stand back and watch our backs. Lee and I would be able to handle them. Yuzu cheerfully said where Chad politely nodded as she stepped back a bit to give his other two teammates some space. Seeing them, Riser's group prepared themselves. Lee asked them their names since he wanted to know his first opponents in his first rating game. Giving him their names, Lee's group gave them theirs. I'm Lee Saiaran, Naruto's knight. Lee introduced himself as he summoned his Chinese Jan sword. I'm Yuzu Mizumo, Naruto-kun's pawn. Said the well-endowed veiled young woman. I'm Chad, Naruto-san's rook. The muscular, extremely tall man wearing a green, short-sleeved shirt, dark blue jeans and ankle boots. He had a tattoo on his left shoulder that read Amori Mort in Spanish. Hearing their names, Riser's pawns shouted out, promotion. Queen. All five pawns were now queens where Yuzu shouted out as well. Promotion. Knight. Where Yuzu became a knight. Once Yuzu promotion, that while knights moved forward against the five girls. Banquet room. Seeing Yuzu promote to a knight is another surprising move since now, Lee, Chad, and Yuzu are now facing five queens. Rias and the others wondered on how the three are going to handle five queens. As this was going on, Issei made another perverted comment on how big Hakufu and Yuzu breasts are, breasts that rivaled Rias and Akeno. Calmly walking straight forward, Kuroka just sighed as she moved forward to block Riser's final group. Seeing Kuroka being frustrated, her partner decided to find out on what the Nekashu was sighing about. Kuroka, what's the matter? Said the person. What's the matter? I can sense Riser's queen is flying over the field and yet she'll be going to face you Baluna. Kuroka said. And the problem would be? With an eyebrow raised in curiosity. It's the fact that I won't be able to fight her, Mocha-chan, Naya. Kuroka stated. That's all Mocha deadpan said. That's right, Naya. You Baluna was the one that attacked and took out my Shirin. I intended to claw her eyes out with my hands, but Naruto-kun said that I should tag team with you. Kuroka complained. Well, you're more a ground fighter instead of a fly fighter. Mocha explained. That true. Kuroka grudged agreed. Besides Mocha's attention turned to what's in front of them to see three of Riser's pieces were standing among them, we got some company. She stated. Hello Kuroka, it's been a while. Said Ravel. Hi Ravel-chan. You've grown a lot since the last time I seen you, Naya. Kuroka cheerfully stated. Same to you. I hope you've taken care of my Nai-sama when he was away. Personally, I wish we didn't have to do this since I'm curious to know what he has been doing. Ravel voiced her curiosity. To tell you the truth, it's been him who has taken care of me in more than one way, Naya she said with a blush giving anyone who was listening a few perverted ideas, but if anything, you should be more worried about Riser, since if he fought against Naruto-kun, he'll face a force that will make him wish he never cross him. Finished Kuroka with a smirk on her face. I don't know what he has done, but Riser and Naya-sama won't lose against Naruto and Naya-sama. Ravel replied. Well CO and before we begin our fight, let me introduce to you to Naruto-kun's rook, the Daywalker, Mocha Akashiya. Kuroka introduced. Mocha Akashiya is an 18-year-old beautiful 5'8" feet tall woman who has long, knee-length silver hair with red cat-like pupils. Her vampire fangs pronounced. She had on the same outfit as Hakufu, except hers was a white Chinese dress and turf shoes. Hearing that Mocha is a vampire, Ravel looked a bit nervous but remembered she had two strong partners. Ravel introduced Kuroka and Mocha to Mihi, Bishop, Carloman, Knight, and Shulin, Rook. Hearing this, both Mocha and Kuroka just smirked in confidence. The two just got themselves ready as Ravel ordered Carloman and Shulin to take on Kuroka and Mocha, while Mihi and her offer support. Banquet room. Whistling casually, Surziches looked at the screen that had Kuroka and Mocha. So he has a vampire among his peerage. That's interesting wouldn't you say my son? Lord Grimmery stated. Surziches nodded in agreement as Lord Phenex also wondered on how his son got a vampire, especially a daywalker to boot. Damn that Naruto bastard. He has several sexy girls with killer bodies that rival Butchu and Akeno-senpai. Issei stated out loud as he shook his fist in rage at how envious he was to the new Phenex. Seeing Kuroka and Mocha together, Issei whined in jealously at how lucky Naruto has for having a sexy rook and bishop. As he said it, he suddenly thought about what Kuroka said. Wait a second, that Kuroka girl, she said that she wants to fight you Baluna for taking out Shirin. Who's Shirin? There isn't anyone here with that name. Issei muttered out loud. That because she goes by a different name. She is actually here. Rias pointed out to their youngest member in the group. Kaneko-chan, you're Shirin. Asia said in surprise. But, why is Kuroka calling Kaneko-chan Shirin? Issei wondered. That's because that her first name, the name that Kuroka gave her. Akeno playfully mentioned. Why's that? Asia asked curiously as she didn't understand the situation. She's my Wani-sama. Kaneko plainly stated. She's your older sister. Issei said in surprise as Kaneko nodded in answering his question. Issei looked back at Kuroka and Kaneko where he finally noticed the resemblance between the two girls. He cursed Naruto for having Kaneko's older sister as his bishop. He then imagined on what Kaneko would look like when she gets older, where he snickered at how sexy she would look like. Kaneko kicked him, breaking him from his imagination. Hentai, Issei-senpai. She said. Ah no, if Kaneko-chan and Kuroka-san are sisters. Why aren't they both in either one of your peerages, but you? Asia asked out of curiosity since it kept both sisters separate. You see, Naruto found Kuroka and Kaneko-chan years ago where he took Kuroka in. He would have wanted to have Kaneko-chan in his peerage as well, but given the special circumstances it would have been a problem. So, he asked if I could take in Kaneko-chan as part of my family, which I happily agreed, which I never regretted on my decision. I not only gotten a wonderful rook, but I also gotten both a friend and a cute little sister. Rias cheerfully said. Kaneko didn't show it, but she was also happy that she was with Rias, since Rias has treated her very kindly and always watched out for her, especially over the last couple of years when Kuroka was gone. Their attention soon changed when Sona spoke up. She openly said on how curious she was on the fact that Naruto has gotten a vampire, especially a daywalker. Hearing that Mocha is a vampire, Issei was surprised but not much since he was getting used to the supernatural world, while Rias thought about her second bishop since Mocha's presence might cause some situations. As their conversation continued, their attention turned back to the raiding game as the sounds of explosions and battle cries could be heard. It was only when the smoke cleared in one of the battlefields that they saw the results. Kataru's group. As the twins with chainsaws moved with their heightened queen promotion, Naruto's first group waited patiently before the two reached the halfway point. Once they did, Hakufu made her move. She instantly moved forward where she surprised the two chainsaw-wielding girls as they had their chainsaw ready to strike. The first thing that Hakufu did was to disarm them by destroying their weapons. Channeling her magic where she gathered a small amount of water, she aimed for the sides of the chainsaws, where she broke the machines with a quick punch and back elbow thrust, before performing a double split kick on the two to separate them. Seeing the twins being taken out, Rias and Isabella moved forward but were surprised to see Sylvia was already in front of them. Sylvia focused her attention on Rias where she used her sword skills to parry Rias' larger sword with ease, while pushing her attack on her. Isabella rushed towards Hakufu, who calmly stood still with a smirk. Isabella started to fight Hakufu with incredible skills in martial arts, but Hakufu easily blocked, diverted, and dodged all of Isabella's attacks. Having enough of Isabella's assault, Hakufu waited until Isabella made the mistake. Isabella threw a punch where Hakufu ducked under, giving her an opening. Gathering Kai into her hand, Hakufu immediately delivered an open palm strike at Isabella's unprotected abs. In an instant, Isabella felt a pain like no other as Hakufu delivered her strike. The Kai-enhanced palm strike delivered a powerful hit where Isabella was sent flying with plenty of her clothes being destroyed along the process. Isabella was sent directly into one of the giant chest structures that was nearby. Being out cold as Isabella was now stuck 5 feet deep inside the stone structure. It was then that she was being teleported out of the raiding game. Riser's rook has retired. Grafia announced to everyone. Sharia, who was witnessing on what was happening, decided to join in but from distance. She promoted herself to a queen as well where she gained a boost of magical power. Staying from a distance, she fired several, simple, fire attacks at Hakufu in hopes to bombard her around. Seeing Sharia firing several volleyball-size fireballs, Hakufu switched gears where she concentrated with her Kai to manipulate her water nature. Gathering a good amount of water around her body, bathtub size, and fired it directly at Sharia's fire attack while running towards her. The water collided with the fireballs which cancelled each other out, surprising Sharia. Before she could react, Hakufu was now in front of her where he delivered a strong left hook into her stomach. How? Sharia stuttered in pain before she went unconscious where she was then teleported away. Riser's pawn has retired. The twins finally got back up from being kicked away where their head was still spinning. They stumbled close together in order to figure out on what to do. But before they can come up with something, they both heard from behind them. Alright, now it's time for little girls like you to fall asleep. They both turned to see Kataru was right behind them with his hands on their shoulders while lazily looking at them. Before they can move, Kataru squeezed a bit on certain part on their necks where it made them twitch for a moment before they went out cold. The two girls were then teleported away from the battlefield. 2 of Riser's pawns have retired. Rias panted heavily as she held her sword in front of her while Sylvia still kept her cool and showed no signs of exhaustion. Looking around her, she knew that Isabella, Lee, Nai and Sharia were now gone, leaving her alone to face these three. As thought about it, she also wondered to herself, how in the world are we losing this fast? Banquet room. Everyone watched as Naruto's Peerage had defeated 4 of Riser's pieces, 3 of which were promoted pawns in their queen form. That made it more interesting since Hakufu, Kataru and Sylvia didn't show signs of fatigue during the entire confrontation. Hakufu-san defeated those 3 with ease with Kataru just assisting and knocking out the twins with no problems. Akeno said as she was impressed on how the first group defeat all but one of their opponents with ease. Per se, it was kind of hard for him to swallow since he fought the twins and Isabella. Even though they were even, it took him a good effort along with his boosted gear to defeat them. Seeing Hakufu, who promoted to a rook while the 3 pawns were promoted into queens and Isabella as well was a whack-you call on where he stands. She's strong, Kaneko monotone said. Second group. As the remaining 5 pawns promoted themselves to queens, Yuzume prepared herself in her promoted knight form, with Lee, male, being her tag team partner, while Chad stood back as he gazed at what's going to happen. Nai and Lee moved in with Mira right behind, while Marion and Buren stood back to watch on how their 2 opponents will respond. Nai and Lee ran in a zigzag pattern to obscure the 2 fighters. Lee, male, jumped back a bit where he kept his guard up, while Yuzume moved a bit forward. Once the 2 Nekomata's girl were at close range, Yuzume made her move. Manipulating her silk veils, she quickly moved with incredible speeds towards the 2 Nekomatas. Once in range, she used her veils as whips to separate the 2. Once separated, Yuzume used her enhanced speed to get right at Lee's face, where she used her veils to wrap around Lee's neck before turning around to use her as a projectile. Being separated from her sister, Nai tried to move back together with her. Unfortunately, to her surprise, she saw Lee being used like a slingshot and sent directly towards her. Just barely moving out of the way, Lee continued to being airborne before tumbling to a stop on the ground. Nai looked back but was surprised when she felt something pierce her center. She looked back to see Yuzum was now in front of her, but had changed her silk veil into a lance that was thrust into her gut. With that, Nai had checked out, which it was known to everyone. Lee looked up to see her sister being taken out, but before she could do anything, Lee, male, caught Mira where he threw her towards Lee. The two collided together but ended on the ground. Quickly getting into stance, Naruto's knight held his sword horizontally while having his hand up vertically on the middle of the steel. His sword began to glow where static power was being let out. Gathering the amount he needed, he held his sword up and swung. "Obey thy command. Thunder, come forth." Lee shouted where a lightning slash was sent directly at the two. Before it could reach the two, a wall of fire in front of Lee and Mira where it protected them. Seeing the firewall, Lee, male, and Yuzum looked behind the two girls to see Marion and Burant with their arms up, showing that they created the firewall. "It seems that in order to take this group out, we're going to have keep them busy so they can't work together," Lee commented. "Yeah, it looks like we're going to have to fight back to back in order to take these girls out," Yuzum suggested where Lee nodded in agreement with her assessment. Both moved forward where they moved together in order to take them out. Banquet room. Everyone watched as the raiding game has been showing some interesting things. Rias and others watched as Naruto's Peerage moving closer to victory since Kataru's group is still strong, with only Cirrus the only left. "This is good, Naruto-san's group has so far taken the lead with none of their members being taken out," Kiba remarked. "Yes, but personally, it's making me grow more worry," Sona said. "Why's that, Sona Kaichu?" Tsubaki curiously asked. "Because all but one of Riser's peerage is accounted for," Sona said where everyone in the table realized on what she meant. On the screen, the sudden appearance of Naruto's first group with Kataru, Hakufu, and Sylvia. Before anything, a sudden flash was seen from above where all three looked up to see a couple of fireballs came down on them. Fortunately, before it could even reach them, a powerful flower petal whirlwind came out of nowhere where it caused the fireballs to explode in midair before even reaching the team. On the sky, Ubaluna witnessed on what was happening where she saw Cirrus was standing alone. Seeing this, Riser's queen saw that the three had their attention on Cirrus where Sylvia was dueling against the knight. She decided to take advantage of it where she gathered her magical power and fired several her fireballs. Her attack was stopped when the petal whirlwind surprised everyone, including her, that it stopped her attack. Before she could wonder on what happened, Ubaluna heard a voice across from her. "Are not bad on attacking them when they didn't kept their guard up in the sky. But unfortunately for you, you didn't suspect that Naruto-kun would also thought about it where he had me just watch over them and take care of any stray shots, just like you." Ubaluna looked in front of her to see someone gently hover down with their devil wings completely spread out. Floating in front of the bomb queen, she can see a young, beautiful woman in her early 20s. She stood at 5'9" feet with amber eyes and long light brown hair. Her hair is longer than her knees with her right bangs are long and are kept behind her right ear, along with the rest of her hair. Her left bangs are shorter than her right, however they are still longer than her face. This cluster of hair hangs freely in front of her left ear. She was wearing a tight white leather pants and leather jacket that left her stomach exposed, which gave a good view of her splendid curves, more on her breasts which were even bigger than Shizuka. She had an ampal mark on her left breast. In her hands, she held an elegant katana in her right and its sheath in the left. On her left leg, she had a pair of throwing knives strapped to a small belt around her leg. Still, it's a pleasure to meet a fellow queen. Now, before we get started, let us introduce ourselves since, even though I learned a bit about you before our meeting, I believe that a proper introduction with each other would be appropriate," said the young woman. "Very well, I'm Ubaluna, Riser-sama's great queen," Ubaluna said. "A pleasure to meet you, Ubaluna, I'm Yuuko Sajiri, Naruto-kun's left-handed queen," Yuuko simply said. "Left-handed queen? Why you call yourself that?" Ubaluna asked as she held her scythe on the ready. "It's because the right hand is reserved for that special person. After all, like Graphius and his Lucifer-sama's right hand, Naruto-kun's right hand hasn't yet made her appearance. Although, hopefully she doesn't mind on sharing him with those of us that are interested in him as well," said the light brunette as she had a bit of a red on her cheeks. She closed her eyes before reopening them to reveal that she was now serious, but I believe that's a conversation for another time. Right now, I believe it's time to see which queen is stronger, don't you agree? Yuuko implied as she sheathed her sword where it is attached by her waist. "Ditto." Ubaluna agreed where she prepared her scythe. Waiting for a bit, Ubaluna made the first move where she channeled her magic into her scythe, where it fired several large fireballs as Yuuko just calmly looked on before she made her strike. Banquet room. Everyone saw the appearance of Naruto's final member, his unknown queen now hovering in front of Riser's queen. As the two had their little discussion, several people, mainly the men, looked at the young queen. I take back what I said about Shizuka-san. Naruto's queen has the biggest eye I've ever seen. Issei blurted out without a care on who listened in. Yuuko Sajiri-san glancing at Yuuko's body figure, it appears that Naruto has gotten himself some interesting people to be part of his peerage. Don't you agree, Rias? Sona asking her childhood friend as she stared at Naruto's queen. I nodded in agreement before continuing on, although I'm curious to see how she would do against you, Baluna. Don't you agree, Akeno? Rias asked her queen and best friend. Akeno was curious on knowing how Naruto's queen would do against Ubaluna. Akeno had fought against Ubaluna, and the reason she lost was because Ubaluna had used the Phoenix tears to cure her wounds, and such where Akeno didn't have it, that later soon caused her defeat. Waiting for the two queens to fight, many men sitting around the tables couldn't help but mutter on how lucky Naruto got to have such a beautiful woman to be his queen, one that some wish they can have, where some high-class devils thought about making a trade with him. In Gremory and Phenex family table, Lord Phenex commented on his youngest son's choice in his queen, since he was interested to see what she can do if she was able to block Ubaluna's attack with ease. As the battles around the raiding game continued on, Kuroka and Mocha both kept their guard up since they were facing not only Ravel, but also Riser's final rook, knight, and bishop. After waiting for a bit, Riser's group made their first move with Mihi, and Ravel quickly got together where they fired several fireballs at the two. Both girls didn't look fazed as the fireballs hit them, where the others wondered why their opponents didn't move. The answer became clear as their images simply disappeared like a soft gentle wind. Kuroka and Mocha were illusions as they had disappeared. All of them tried to look for them when all of a sudden Kuroka appeared in front of them again. Smiling confidently in a sinister way, the raven-hair Nekashu simply said, Ara, that was a good effort if we were rookies, but unfortunately, I and Mocha have been trained by Naruto-kun. And you do remember Naruto-kun is like when it comes to fights. Where Ravel reluctantly nodded since she remembered when she was younger on how skilled Naruto's combat skills are. Before anything else could be said, Kuroka simply stated with a smile, also watch out Naya. They looked confused before they realized on what she meant, where they looked around to see Mocha was now running towards them before leaping into the air for a flying high kick. Ravel and her group separated as they dodged Mocha's attack. Mocha slid on the ground where she created a ditch that was 5 meters long and knee-high. Seeing how strong Mocha really is, Shulin and Carmine knew that they needed to take out Mocha first, since not only are her physical skills high up, but also her speed. Shulin looked at Carmine where they were in the same page about it. Carmine suggested that Shulin to go see how fast Mocha's reaction speed and martial arts skills are before they decided on how to take her out. Leaping out of the ditch she created, Mocha looked to see Shulin running towards her. Seeing Shulin coming at her, Mocha witnessed Shulin had her hand and feet covered in fire. Not feeling concerned, Mocha steadily waited until Shulin came to her. Getting within striking range, Shulin punched and kicked Mocha in any way she could in order to injure Mocha. Unfortunately, Mocha simply dodged every last of Shulin's strike without her even touching her. Getting annoyed, Mocha decided to end the fight by catching Shulin's high kick while avoiding the flame around her foot. You're annoying, know your place, Mocha simply stated as she backflipped her body, tugging at Shulin closer. Letting her go, Shulin didn't have a change to block properly Mocha high kick to her face, where she was shot back into one of the giant chess pieces. Seeing Shulin being sent flying, Carmine looked worried before she heard steady footsteps coming towards her. Looking back, she saw Mocha calmly walking closer to her. Seeing her coming towards her, she drew her sword where she encased the blade with fire to increase its damaging effect. As Carmine prepared to avenge Shulin, she gazed at Mocha's eyes where she started to quiver a bit in fear. Mocha's eyes were piercing red where it glowed even redder as a slight breeze made her hair gently move with the wind, making her more majestic. At the same time that Mocha was dealing with Shulin and Carmine, Kuroka was dealing with Ravel and Mihi. Once being separated from Mocha's attack, Ravel and Mihi got together where they decided to rejoin with either Shulin or Carmine. Before they could even move, they were surrounded by multiple Kurokas. The black-hair Nekomata used her Senjutsu and Jujutsu abilities to create illusions of herself to surround Riser's two bishops. Ravel and Mihi fired several fire attacks at her where each attack just phased through. Oh my, those attacks would have hurt. Too bad for you two to have such poor aim. I think you two might be overstressed about this. Here, this should help you relax a bit, Naya, all the Kuroka illusion simultaneously said while raising a hand up. Letting out a gentle yet strong breathe out onto her hand, a small amount of mist began to increase in size. Being surrounded in the mist, Ravel and Mihi wondered on what this is before they started to feel their bodies to numb. Poison Ravel stated, we need to get out, where Mihi nodded agreement as she brought out her devil wings to fly. Ravel's demonic fire wings burst out of her back where the two tried to fly away. But before they could even get out of the area, the two were suddenly thrown back to the center by several strong hits. Sorry Ravel-chan, but I can't let you get away now, Naya. Kuroka teasfully said. As they tried to get back up, Ravel and Mihi coughed in pain as their bodies were now really started to grow numb. They tried to move, but the effects of the poison was really affecting them. Hearing footsteps coming towards them, they both looked up to see the Nekomata Mister standing over them. This is checkmate for you too, Naya. Ravel, you might be a Phenex, but unlike the legendary true Phoenix and Naruto-kun, a Phenex's physical ability can't heal poison. I'm afraid this is the for you too, Naya. Teasfully glee at the two. Banquet room. Seeing Kuroka slowly defeating Ravel and Mihi, along with Mocha's incredible strength, really showed a lot on how powerful they are. Sugoi-san muttered out in astonishment. Big Gap Kaneko simply said, although can't help but be envious at both her sister and Mocha, since they're fighting opponents they fought. Seeing Mocha defeat Shulin with minimal try, it showed the level of difference they were. Even her sister has changed so much that she is easily defeating Ravel just by poisoning her. Poison, why didn't I think of that? If I had, then I may have been able to have a better chance to defeat Riser. Rias muttered to herself. Glancing at her childhood friend, Sona saw that Rias was in thought where she guessed what it was. Rias, you shouldn't think about the past too much. What's done is done, which you can't rewrite it. The only thing you could do is just learn from it and move forward. Right now, the only thing you should be doing is continue to cheer for your friend. Said Kuo Academy president. Knowing that Sona was right, Rias looked back at the fight where things were getting closer to the conclusion. As the battles on the ground began to settle with the two queens were settling their fight. Yubaluna had bruises and burns from the physical hits from Yuuko's elbow, kicks, and knee attacks, with enhanced lightning affinity, while Yuuko had similar bruises, except she had a few light burns and cuts that showed in her leather clothes. The two panted as they stared at each other. As they were ready to fight again, Yubaluna positioned her side where she looked gleeful. Curious on seeing how Yubaluna was looking so confident, Yuuko decided to ask the bomb queen. What's with the look? Are you enjoying this battle or is it something else? Yubaluna just looked at Yuuko with a straight face before pulling out a small vial. Yuuko saw the vial where she narrowed her eyes for a second before she realized on what it was. That vial is that, Yuuko started to say before Yubaluna cut her off. Yes. This is the Phoenix Tears. As you know, these tears can heal all the injuries that the user receives. You fought well, but I'm afraid this is the end for you. Yubaluna said as she took the contents of the vial where all her wounds began to heal. Once she was fully healed, Yubaluna's confidence grew since she now had a chance to win. However, glancing at Yuuko, her confidence began to waver as Naruto's queen maintained her poker face, which was now smiling at her, especially in the situation she was in now. I can see that the Phoenix Tears abilities are true as they say, which can be very troubling. However, in this case, it won't matter since I've already completed my task. Yuuko stated. Your task? Yubaluna said as she gathered her magic for another fire attack. Yes, you see, Naruto-kun had asked me to observe you and gather some intelligence on you. However, seeing the rating game match against Rias and how you fought now, Naruto-kun's hypothesis about Riser not training his peerage properly does show. Yuuko explained. Yubaluna grew angry where she threw several fireballs where Yuuko easily dodged or deflected by sending some lighting into her arms and legs. Getting a bit of distance, Yuuko looked back at the bomb queen. I believe I have entertained you long enough. It's time to finish this. She stated as she began to draw her sword from its sheath for the first time in their battle. It was then that Yubaluna and those in the banquet room gazed at flameless Phoenix Queen. Yuuko's long silk hair began to change hair color where it changed from light brown to silver white, like Graphia. Once her hair had completely changed, Yuuko pointed her katana at Yubaluna as she stared back. Yubaluna didn't wait for Yuuko to make a move where she gathered a large amount of fire magic against the now silver hair queen. But before she could even attack, Yuuko moved forward with her sword covered in lightning. Yubaluna attacked with a concentrated fire blast at close range to take out Yuuko, but Yuuko unleashed a powerful lightning-enhanced slash with her sword. The slash not only cut Yubaluna's attack, but it continued to move forward as it grew in size and power, completely overwhelming Yubaluna's attack as the slash hit dead on. Ayakudai Ramekin, maximum thunderclap sword. Yuuko calmly said as her placed back her sword in its sheath, while Yubaluna is forcefully teleported away in a magical teleportation circle. Riser's queen is retired. Graphia announced. Yuuko breathed easily as she took out Riser's queen, where it shows with her hair going back to normal. It was then that she heard from the intercom in her ear. Yuuko-chan, I sensed that you fought and took out Yubaluna. Are you alright? Naruto asked. I'm alright, Naruto-kun. I just have a few injuries. Yuuko responded. Alright then. I'll send Shizuka to take a look at you, or are you okay with just yourself? Naruto said. I'll be alright, I do have medical knowledge as well. Save Shizuka for anyone else who will need it. Yuuko replied, which Naruto agreed. Banquet hall. Everyone showed on how impressed or shocked at how Yuuko defeated Yubaluna. Akeno was the most surprised, stunned than everyone else since she fought against Yubaluna, who also used the Phoenix Tears to defeat her. However, Yuuko was in a similar situation that the Thunder Priestess was in, yet Yuuko defeated Yubaluna with ease. Naruto-kun's queen is very impressive, said Lady Gremory stated, which everyone agreed. But I must say, she does look like you, Grafia-chan Surziches commented to his queen, which she nodded in agreement. However, Surziches continued on with his comment, although if I'm so boldly say Yuuko is physically more well endowed, he said innocently enough. Although, once he finished it, he suddenly felt a painful tug on his cheek, where he saw Grafia pulling his face with her hand, while still maintaining her monotone look. Please learn how to properly speak, Surzich-sama. Grafia plainly said, where Surziches agreed with. Hearing Yubaluna has been retired, Ravel coughed harshly while thinking on how bad the situation is growing. Before anything else could happen, she suddenly heard Grafia announce in the area. Riser's knight is retired, Riser's 5 pawns retired. Hearing that everyone except her, Mihi, Carmine and her brother are the only ones left, Ravel knew that they'll lose if they don't take out Mocha and Kuroka first before any of their backup comes here. Ravel used her remaining strength to do something to keep Kuroka at bay. She wielded her Phenex ability of fire to encircle the two where it spread until it reached Kuroka's illusions. Ravel contracted her fire to encircle both her and Mihi, before she elevated her encircle fire to expand in height, so to keep Kuroka's at bay. Kuroka stopped her assault as she saw the youngest Phenex encircling herself and her teammate in fire. She knew that it kept her at bay, as well as burn the poison that she unleashed away. Deciding to wait, Kuroka just glanced at the flaming barrier. Her attention then changed when she heard Grafia out. Riser's knight is retired. Glancing at Mocha, she saw the young beautiful vampire held Carmine by her neck as her armor was stripped out and clothes shredded with her swords on the ground before she vanished from the raiding game. Taking a closer look, Kuroka saw that the only visible injury Mocha had was a deep cut in her arm as blood gushed out from the slash. "Mocha, are you alright?" Kuroka asked in concern to her vampire friend. "I'm alright. I just need Shizuka or Yuuko to look over the injury," Mocha replied calmly. "I contact Naruto-kun, Naya." Kuroka said, where she contacted Naruto through the intercom in her ear, where he was sending Shizuka to their location. Ravel and Mihi were strategizing on what to do. When Ravel created her fire barrier, she took out her Phoenix Tears, where she and Mihi recovered a bit from Kuroka's poison. As the two bishops discuss on their plans, they both heard Grafia announced Carmine's retirement, which meant that they were Riser's last defense. Before they could figure out on what to do, they suddenly witnessed Ravel's fire barrier was cut in half. Before they could do something, a water whip came out of nowhere where it caught Mihi from her ankle and tossed her into the air. Ravel was about to help but suddenly leapt out of the way from an energy attack. But leaping out of the way, Mihi was struck by lightning, where she was then taken out of the game. Ravel balanced herself out where she saw right in front of her was her brother, Naruto, entire Peerage standing above her. She looked around where she saw everyone, where she spotted Shizuka using her magic to heal Mocha's injured arm, while Yuuko stood at the back. "Ravel-chan, I suggest you retire now since I doubt you can beat all of us now, Naya," Kuroka simply said as she tilted her head cutely. Ravel shook in frustration before resigning herself since she knew she can't beat them all. Before she could even announce her retirement, Kataru and Chad jumped in front of everyone. "Inugami Ryu Kuga, Inugami style. Vacuum Fang," Kataru shouted as he fired a Kai attack that turned into a Shadow Fang. Chad thrust a punch where he fired a magical energy blast where the two attacks synced together. It was then that an explosion was heard in the air. Everyone looked up to see the explosion disperse, where they saw a shadowy figure hover down to everyone. It was then that everyone saw who it was, since the fire wings were a dead giveaway. "Nai-sama," Ravel shot back in relief since she knew that her brother would change the course of this match. Looking down, his eyes gazed at his opponents. Although his eyes leered more on the women in Naruto's peerage, especially on Shizuka and Yuuko considering their breast size. I can't believe that my little brother was able to take out all of my peerage members. Although, I must say that he chosen poorly considering he has several male members in his team. You all did well against my peerage, but against me, I can take you all on with ease," Riser confidently said. Narrowing their eyes, they can see how arrogant Riser really is, which they mentally agreed with Naruto that Riser is overgrown jerk. "Alright then, bring it. If you're so confident, why don't you come down here and take your beating like a man already? I'm going to enjoy beating your face into the ground, you lecherous playboy." Kataru growled at him as he was eager to start fighting the overconfident Phenex. "PSK, my brother seems to be lacking in training his pieces if they bark back at their superior with such disrespect," Riser announced to them. "Respect? Ha, the only respect I have for you is the same respect I see a bug on a carcass of a dead animal," Kuroka said as she walked up. Oh my, Kuroka-chan, I can see that you've really grown. It's a shame that my annoying little brother didn't trade you to me, since I have no doubt that we would have a pleasant time together. Riser flirted the black-hair Nekashu. You're still the same jerk that I know, Riser. Comparing you to my king, he definitely outranks you in everything, and I do mean everything. Kuroka teased at the older Phoenix male. Naruto's Peerage chuckled at what Kuroka said before they heard Ravel shout at them to quiet down, but didn't. Maintaining his cool, Riser didn't let Kuroka's insult get to him. Oh well, it seems now that I am going to have to show all of you some respect. I'll take out the men first, so that way I and all of you ladies can start to get to know each other, since I'm sure I can convince you on how much more pleasant I can be, instead of my disgrace of younger brother. Riser simply stayed as he enhanced the flames on his wings more. Everyone prepared before they heard footsteps coming from behind. They turned to see Naruto walking up to them. All of you guys did great. But I'm going to have to ask you all to step down at this point, Naruto confidently said with a smile on his face, since his peerage has really grown to be very strong. However, his pleasant smile only lasted for another second before he opened his eyes to reveal his serious face, since if anyone is going to take out my brother, it's going to be me. He stated with a commanding tone. Steadily walking forward, Naruto stopped as he reached Shizuka. Taking off his jacket, he handed it to her. Dear Shizu-chan, I don't want it to get destroyed. So can you hold on to this? He asked his blonde bishop. Shizuka nodded where she held his jacket once she was done healing Mocha's arm from the slash Carmine gave her. Moving forward, Naruto kept his eye on Riser as he spoke to his peerage. You guys have really improved in these past 5 years. I'm glad you agreed to be part of my team. But now, this last challenge in our first rating game is for me and me alone. If you guys don't mind, can you stand back since I'm going to show my brother on where he stands now. Where his peerage agreed, although Kataru whined about not being able to punch Riser's face. Walking a bit more, Naruto stopped next to Ravel. You should also get back, Ravel. You'll only be in the way. He suggested to his little sister. Ravel was about to retort but saw Naruto's eyes where her body froze, since Naruto's eyes show eyes of a seasoned warrior, a glare that made her believe that she can actually die. Ravel just knelt down in submission where she moved back. Once Ravel left them alone, Naruto put his focus on his brother Riser, still wearing his white wedding suit, touched down on the ground to be on even eye level. Being overconfident, Riser simply walked up to Naruto with one of his hands in his pants pocket. Now then, Naruto, why don't you for once be smart and just forfeit, since you do know that I'm going to win? Said the older Phoenix. How about you act like a good brother and just shut up for once? Naruto replied. Narrowing his eyes at Naruto's comment, Riser stopped just in front of Naruto. You know you're trying my patience now. Just give up, since unlike the rest of our family, you don't have any of the Phoenix family regenerative powers or even our great flames. Riser commented while releasing his flames to surround the two of them. I may not be able to wield the flames of our family, but that means nothing to me. And by the way, if you think you can use such a cheap pyro technique to intimidate me, then I can see why you be so scared of me. Smirked Naruto as he didn't show signs of weakness or fear. Riser growled in frustration as Naruto stood perfectly still, keeping his smiling poker face without blinking, having his guard down and such. Basically, Naruto was telling him through body language that he didn't consider his brother, Riser, a threat. Alright, I had enough, I'm going to finally put you, Riser shouted before he was cut off by a fist in his face. Naruto had enough talk where he simply punched Riser's face with a good amount of force while bending both his arms and knees a bit, bringing up his guard. Pulling his fist back, he looked at his older brother. Oh, did that hurt? I'm sorry if it did, but I just had to, since I figured it would be great to rearrange your face to something better considering on how you look now. Naruto remarked with a smirk. Why, you little, Riser said again before he was cut off by another punch at his face, this time with enough force to throw him back a good couple of meters. Enough talk, let's see if you actually have any skills, since I highly doubt that your overbearing mouth would finish this fight. Naruto stated as he put his guard up and took a fighting stance. Riser just did what Naruto said where he gathered his fire in his hands and was going to throw it at him. But before he could even attack, Naruto used Shundo to instantly be in front of Riser, where he used his martial arts skills to diverge the blast away from him. The fire blast went into a different direction where Naruto had a clear opening where he delivered another strong punch into his older brother that sent him flying back. Riser was sent directly to one of the chess piece replicas. Banquet room. Seeing both brother now coming up to face each other after their peerage have finished fighting, many were both excited and anticipating on how the outcome will come out too. Rias looked nervous since she knew that Naruto didn't have the Phoenix abilities like the rest of his family. As she, along with those that know Naruto's past, knew that he had a very huge disadvantage. Naruto-kun, Rias muttered as she was nervous for her friend old crush. Now the real fight is about to begin. Sona thought out loud. Hi, the real question here is whether or not if Naruto-san has greatly increased his power, or Tsubaki started to explain. If Naruto-kun has a secret strategy to take out Riser. Akeno finished Tsubaki's explanation. We're going to see now. Kiba remarked as he, Issei, Asia and Kaneko just looked on since this is the real match. It seems my inquisitiveness is going to be answered now. Surzucha said with his usual laid-back look since he was intrigued on how Naruto has grown up. Yes my boy, I'm just as curious as well. Lord Gremory said. Although Surzucha started to reply, regardless on how the match is going to turn out, I do know that after this is over, Naruto-kun is going to turn his rage from Riser-kun to U4. Looking back at both his parents and Lord and Lady Phenex. Yes, but considering that he left without a proper explanation or consideration to everyone's feelings. I doubt his anger would be that much, but considering that Rias was involved, it would still be a very unpleasant meeting. Surzucha-sama, I suggest we join Lord and Lady Phenex to help keep things civilized. Braifia suggested to her king since she knew that next to Surzucha's, Naruto care about Rias very deeply. Yes, I believe that a good idea. Surzucha's agreeing with his wife's agreement. Their attention changed when they saw a couple of explosions to see Naruto was dodging Riser's fire blasts, who was throwing them while he was in the air. Rating game. Naruto shunned around the area as he continued to dodge Riser's fire blast attack. While dodging, Naruto kept his poker face grin where he continued to look at Riser with it. Riser, who continued his assault at his brother, just growled at seeing his brother not even showing a frown in this situation. What's the matter Nai-san, can you even hit me being up there? Or is it the fact that you don't have any skills in fighting someone who is stronger than you? Naruto taunted his older brother where he made several poses at his brother where he disappeared from the spot to another when a fire attack tried to hit him. Seeing that his brother was taunting him, Riser suddenly grinned when fired several more blasts around Naruto. The young Phoenix noticed that his brother wasn't even throwing his attacks at or near him. He stopped his movements while taking a glance around him. Snapping his eyes in realization, Naruto thought to himself, it would seem that my brother isn't all bark with his other opponents. Looking up to his brother. Riser looking down at his brother with a sinister grin, he was pleased to see that his brother finally noticed that he had created a circular barrier of fire to surround Naruto in. The orange-red flames was in Riser's command as he prepared to finish his brother off. You really are pathetic if you didn't even see this attack coming. Riser overboosted his victory as he prepared his hands. Naruto continued to calmly look at Riser where he suddenly clasped his hands together. The flames around him suddenly collide to the center where Naruto didn't attempt to defend himself, just grew a small smirk as the flames devour him. Banquet room. Naruto. Rias cried out with Akeno, and Sona stood up in fear at their friend. Everyone watched as they anticipate that the match would be over now. But what they saw next was something that no one, neither Riser, could have predicted. As Riser's flames continued to engulf the center of the circular furnace, Riser just looked down with an uncaring look. Ravel who was standing by looked in fear as she saw her older brother Riser burn their brother alive. HMPH, this is what you get when you mess with your superior. Now, with this little annoyance out of the way, I have a wedding to get to. And once I have Rias, I might come for your peerage since they obviously need someone to actually train them. Riser taunted. But before he can even call out his victory, something in Riser's flames began to look off. It was only when the orange-red flames suddenly erupted around that everyone saw what was inside. The orange-red flames began to be eaten away by black flames. The black flames began to encircle the area before it spread out to reveal an unharmed Naruto. Having his eyes closed with his arms crossed, he looked unharmed, except his bandages on his forearms were burned off to reveal black tattoos in his forearms. It was only when the black flames had completely engulfed Riser's that Naruto opened his eyes to reveal the seriousness and intensity that were held in them. What was that you were saying? If this is the level of my superior then I'm going to reveal what a lackey can do. Naruto taunted as the black flames began to recede into Naruto, showing that Naruto was the wielder. Seeing Naruto commanding the black flames, Riser looked stupefied, stunned, shocked at what he was seeing from his little brother. Impossible. You don't have the flames of the Phoenix. How can you even wield these flames? Riser asked with a commanding tone. That's simple, there are more than one type of flame in the world. I just happen to be a wielder of another type, a type that only one other being is able to handle. Said Naruto with a growing grin. Another being? Riser confusedly repeated. That's right. I believe that you know the legendary Dragon King, Vritra, known as the Prison Dragon. Vritra is a master of the Blaze Black Flare, also known as the Evil Dragon's Black Flame. These first Naruto crossed his forearms up to his face, while I'm the second by mastering the Dark Dragon Flames of Major Rebia, he stated with an insane grin, as the black flame burst out calmly and mystically from his forearms, where his entire body began to be enwrapped around the black flames of chaos. Once he was powered up, he instantly leapt forward where he moved with incredible speed that surprised Riser. Before he could even guard himself, Naruto appeared right in front of Riser where he delivered a black flame punch. Banquet room. Every single guest started to talk in astonishment at what Naruto has done. Those who have heard of the Black Dragon Flames of Chaos couldn't believe that a devil was able to wield the dark flame without Prison Dragon to aid him. Naruto-san, he actually is able to wield such a dark flame. Sona said as she was stunned about it. I can't believe that he is able to summon such a power. Rias muttered as her eyes widened in surprise. You're right about that. But if anything, you all have to agree Akeno getting everyone's attention, that those black flames surround him, does make him really sexy, said the Thunder Priestess as a lustful look grew on her face on seeing Naruto being covered in such a power, while placing a finger on her mouth as she imagined a few possibilities. Issei tear up as he saw how Akeno found Naruto acting so strong and such. I can't believe on how reckless Naruto is. To actually be suicidal enough to actually master the forbidden flame that the magicians created. Lord Phenex. I'm going to strangle my idiotic son for doing something like this. Naruto's mother stated as she shook in frustration. As much as I want to see that conversation, I'm more curious on how he managed to master, or for that matter, how he was able to find that spell. Surziches curiously wondered. We'll find out later since I want to see what a devil can do with this technique since all those that tried to have failed. Lord Grimmery said. Those who were old enough to remember or heard of the forbidden technique, the chaotic dark dragon flame of Major Rebia, knew that any devil and magician that tried to use the technique either died or weren't able to use magic anymore, more fatalities in devils. It was so dangerous for anyone that only an accurate handful was able to master it, being humans, and I do mean only 5 fingers, but are now gone because of old age. The spell was said to be sealed in secret by the most noble of magicians, where no one would be able to learn from or find it. For Naruto to be able to find and master the spell, they can't help but wonder on what else Naruto is able to do. Being punched in the face, Naruto continued his assault where he followed his brother that he punched in the face. Quickly elbowing his gut, he sent Riser down, embedding him into the ground, while Naruto used his black flames that cover his entire body to maintain himself in the air. Waiting for a bit, Naruto saw a sudden fire pillar erupt from the ground that he sent Riser. Coming out of the flames, Riser had his fire wings spread out as he elevated himself to be on Naruto's eye level. Glaring at Naruto, Riser just growled a bit before he started to snicker. Naruto raised single eyebrow as he was wondering on what Riser was thinking about. You surprise me. You actually found your own type of flames. That's pretty good, but comparing it to the flames of true Phoenix like me, it means nothing. Riser commented. I don't know about that. Where Riser's smile faded, I'll show you what else my dragon flame can do. Naruto said as he narrowed his flame. Riser used his flame where he created a flame spear where he charged him. Naruto charged forward as well, while focusing his hands to create a single black flame sword. Both clashed together while fighting in the air. Banquet room. The sounds of powers clashing between the two brothers were heard around. Moving with incredible speed where high-class devils can still easily see, Rias and the others watched as Naruto and Riser continued to fight for dominance. Everyone was really interested to know what the flames of the Phoenix can do against the dark flames of the dragon. After a bit of clashing, Naruto and Riser held against each before Naruto instantly dispersed his dark flame sword where Riser moved forward and lose his balance. Naruto used this moment to get in Riser's guard where he delivered several strong punches in his abs before kicking him away with great force. Riser's flames burst out as his injuries once again healed instantly. Riser just started to laugh out loud at Naruto's attack. Was that really supposed to hurt me? You should know already, you Phoenix reject. Mocked Riser. Naruto just looked on before he grew a smirk. Oh, I already know that. But for me this gives me a perfect chance to try something that will give the win. Where a look of confidence grew in his face. As Riser looked on, Naruto dropped to the ground where he breathed deeply and calmed down his body. Once he was centered, he crossed his forearms with his hands fully open as he gathered power. I would never attempt to do that technique again, but it's a good thing that I'm only going to balance it out instead of synchronizing it, Naruto thought as he looked at his brother. The energy gathered around his open palms began to take form of the Rasengan, except it was growing bigger, while one of the energy attacks was starting to grow white flames, while the other became embedded with dark flames. The thing that got most their attention was the fact in Naruto's hand that held the light flame Rasengan began to sizzle stench his skin as a small burn mark started to appear in it. I hope you're ready, brother, you'll see on what kind of Phoenix I really am. The blonde thought to himself as his grin grew. Watching from a bit of distance, Shizuka, Kuroka and Sylvia looked confused before realization hits them where three begin to panic. What is he thinking? He can't be doing that, right? Is he trying to get himself killed? Sylvia said in disbelief. I don't know, think so. From here, I say he's only balancing it out, not sensing it together. This will be different from the last time. Kuroka replied. That's good to hear. If he was actually going to try that again with that large amount of power, he'll get more than second-degree burns. Shizuka explained with a relief tone in her voice. That's true, but it looks like he's only going to do the down version, which means that this match is as good as won. Sounded happily the Nekashu. Everyone in the peerage heard the conversation that the three were talking about. They wondered about it where they asked him. The only thing that Kuroka said to them is just watch, since if Naruto succeeds then we'll see something that no devil could do. Naruto focused as he performed his Rasengan in both his hands while adding a certain element, an element that was starting to burn his hands because of the aura that was illuminating. The circular power that Naruto gathered has grown to be twice as big as his head, where once it was done, he crushed both energy balls in his hands which he absorbed into his body. Once Naruto infused the energies of both his energy balls, he shivered a bit before he let out a loud shout, where his burst out a large amount of flames, which made everyone stand at attention. Banquet room. Some leaned closer while others stood up as they saw Naruto has done something that was questioning if Naruto's isn't like Sasuke's and Ajuka. Rias and the others watched as he stood tall while his body was being enwrapped with energy. While watching, the dragon in Issei's boosted gear spoke up to the brunette where he actually explained on what Naruto was doing. You know what he is doing, Drag? The brunette had mentally asked. Yes, which I must say, he's both courageous and clever on using your devil's Achilles heel. Drake commented. Achilles heel, Issei mentally repeated. It's actually quite interesting. He's using the darkness flame to cover and protect his entire body while using your devil weakness outside of it. With it he'll be able to beat that flaming chicken. Drake mentioned. Our weakness? Issei questioned the Red Dragon Emperor who agreed with him. Balance out our weakness, you don't mean he is actually trying to use Issei started to say it, getting what Drake was explaining. Hi partner, although it's not the same, but that blonde devil is going to be able to use the ability to wield the holy power of heaven, the power of light magic, Drake answered as the two turned back as Naruto screamed into the sky. High School DxD. Trip innocent of D. Naruto stood tall as his body was covered in a large amount of white flames, twice his size, simply emitted around him, while his body was outlined with dark flames. The dark flames shadowed his features, but his eyes can still be seen since they were illuminating a blue power. Seeing Naruto in this form, Riser looked nervous as he can't tell what Naruto did. Before he could wonder about it, Naruto looked straight at Riser. Alright Riser, let's see how you against these kind of flames. Challenging the older blonde. Before Riser could respond, Naruto shundo where he was now right in front of his brother, where he delivered a strong right hook in Riser's face. Naruto quickly followed his brother after he projected him. Getting in front, he delivered a strong side kick sending him into the air. Naruto quickly flew into the air where he kept a good distance from Riser, who managed to get himself balance in the air using his flame wings. Balancing himself, Riser looked at his brother who was floating at the same eye level as him. Seeing Naruto looking at him seriously, the only thing Riser did was just laugh at him. Hahaha. Is that all you've got? Can't you see that no matter what you do, your attacks are all, he started to say before he suddenly started to convulse where he coughed up blood. Trembling as Riser sees his blood coughing out of his mouth as his flames were starting to weaken while trying to heal his injuries. Looking at his brother, he stared in disbelief at what Naruto just did and was pondering on how he did it. Guessing what Riser was thinking, Naruto answered not just his but also everyone in the banquet room. Are you surprised, brother? Does my ability to use holy flames surprise you? Narrowing his eyes with a confident grin. Riser just shivered a bit before he snarled at him, where Naruto declared to him to start taking him seriously since he was now going to go all out against him. Riser unleashed his power where he was now covered in his demonic flames around his body to look like a phoenix. Once he gathered his power, he flew straight at Naruto who also did the same thing. Both of them collided against each other where their powers clashed for supremacy. After a bit, the two separated where they went back and collided with each other again. Banquet room. Rias and Sona were dumbfounded while Akeno's lustful look continued to grow with each image she was seeing as they witnessed how Naruto was using his powers. Rias and Sona muttered on how Naruto is able to use holy flames. Holy flames? Asia asked curiously. Holy flames similar to the ones that the great archangel Uriel uses. Sona answered. Even if it's a flame, Naruto's flames are both dragon and holy, which holy is a weakness for us devils by nature. That's why Naruto-san is using the dark flames to cover himself in, to protect himself from those holy flames. This also helps since he is balancing both the dark dragon flame with the holy flame, it helps put a backburning to Riser's own flames, I guess. Sona's queen suggested, which those that know what she was talking about nodded in understanding. The backburning, this is what their two flames are doing. Naruto must be using the dark flames to cancel out Riser's own demonic flame, which would leave Naruto using the holy flames in full use, which is causing Riser's pain. Sona explained the technique to those that didn't understand what they were talking about as they witness Riser suffering. Even the phoenix that rises again from the ashes can't recover instantly from mental damage it's receiving. Akeno stated. Mental? Kaneko muttered back. Mental? That is to say, his mind isn't immortal. Rias explained. Knowing that Naruto had unleashed both his dragon and holy white flames, Rias knew that Naruto now had the ability to win. Surziches and the other members of the two families looked on at what the youngest male Phenex has done. Naru-chan, just what have you done? Lady Phenex silently muttered out about her youngest son. I say that he's been growing up very nicely and very strongly. Don't you two agree, father and Lord Phenex? Surziches said with his usual laid-back tone, but inner thought on what Naruto's training for him to be able to use such powers. But how did he do it? We all know that the cursed flame is forbidden, since it's similar to the sage arts where it gathers the corruption of the world. But instead of the world, he is gathering the destructive corrupted power of the spirits of the evil dragon. Lord Phenex commented. What could have happened to allow him use such a power? Lord Gremory wondered out loud. We can ask him that later. Right now, I like to see what he can do and what this power he has can do. Surziches commented since he was really entertained. Both Phoenixes fought and collided with each other as Naruto's white flames easily matched Riser's. After a bit of fighting, Naruto and Riser separated from each other where they had a good distance. Once separated, everyone can see what the damage was done to each of the brothers. Naruto didn't look any different with his flames embracing him, while Riser looked like he was dragged through the dirt. Riser panted heavily as flames tried to heal his injuries, but Naruto's holy flames made it impossible to heal him, since the holy power was attacking both his body and his soul. Alright, time to end this, Naruto declared where he focused his power. End this? Riser repeated. The light holy flames then danced around along with his black flames, where he shed his black flames where both light and darkness combined into his hand. In his hand, the Rasengan was created again, but it looked like the yin-yang symbols, where Naruto used his black flames to create his own flame wings. Growling at him, Riser just gathered more flames where he threw at him. Naruto simply dodged his assault by doing a few leaps where he went back a good distance. Brother, you should remember what holy powers can do against us. And here is where you'll see where your flames truly stand against me. This is what you get for stepping over your boundary. Naruto declared with an angry look on his face. Slightly taking a step back, Riser started to shout back at Naruto. Wait, you don't understand what this marriage is all about. You should know that this marriage is important to the future of the devil race. For someone like you, who didn't inherit any of the Phoenix family's abilities, it would show that the devil race is starting to fall. A child like you, who never took any of these matters seriously, shouldn't never been declared to marry one of the other noble family house of privileged birth. Riser said, trying to convince his little brother. Is that the reason you disrespected me, insulted and humiliated me, whenever you got the chance managed to weasel your way into becoming Rias-chan's fiancé, and even using force to get her to marry you? You're wrong, brother. I may not be much interested in devil politics and such, but there is one thing I know. That everything you did to that point can be tolerated. But the one thing I know is what no one should have ever done. Naruto declared where he remembered what he has seen before. You made Rias cry. Naruto stated as he remembered seeing Ria's eyes with tears in it that were both filled with both hope and happiness, along with sadness. That's more than enough of a reason for you to feel my wrath as the Phoenix Dragon of the Phoenix family. Naruto stated where he moved forward where his power orb unleashed auras where the white and dark flames collided in front of him. The white flame became a spiritual representation of the phoenix, while the image of dark dragon flame began to merge together with it, changing the mythical images to a fuse of the two legendary beasts into one. Of course, the only person to see was Riser, who couldn't move from seeing not only the spirit of the dragon in front of him, but also their family's most sacred creature that they worship. Naruto moved with such incredible speed that Riser couldn't defend himself where Naruto shoved his orb directly into Riser's gut, causing a large expansion about the twice of either one of their bodies where Riser was sent flying, with Naruto's attack, back before a large explosion occurred. Down on the ground, Riser was now on his back looking like he could die at any moment. Walking to the downed Phenex, Naruto looked at him with a look of disgrace on the brother. You lose, Riser, I win. Naruto declared. Banquet room. Naruto-kun, you did it. Rias just muttered as she looked happy at Naruto's victory. It was then that she heard from behind. It looks like it's over now. Then soundtrack. She turned back to see Surziches, who had a smile on his face. The arena that held the rating game began to dismantle itself apart where Naruto looked at his peerage and told them to go back to their temporary home, which they did. Naruto saw Ravel come and picked up their brother, while Naruto just leapt into the air, then gently fall to the ground before unleashing his black flame wings to slow down his descent. Landing on the ground in his backyard, Naruto looked pleased since he felt like he has finally put an end to one of his inner demons. It was only after a second that he stood up where before he could even look around he was suddenly embraced in a loving hug. He immediately saw Rias' figure was now holding him with tearful eyes. Naruto just gently smiled at seeing Rias finally having the weight of her fate gone for now. Naruto, the Crimson Princess said. "Who are you? You're not the Rias I left all those years ago," Naruto said. Rias looked up to see the confused look that the black flaming wielding Phenex had on his face. Before she could even question him, he suddenly snapped his head where he looked upon her with realization. "Oh, this is probably why I didn't recognize you. After all, I gave this to the Rias I know," Naruto stated where he pulled out the crystal gem pendant that Riser thrown away and that Naruto picked it up after. Rias looked surprised before he motioned her to turn around, which she happily did. Just like over 7 years ago, Naruto placed the pendant around Rias' neck where the gem proudly settled in its rightful place on her chest. "Now that better. Now you're the Rias that I remembered," Naruto declared where Rias agreed since that pendant definitely represent the bond that the two held together. It was around this time that their friends started to arrive since they wanted to give the two their private moment. Before things could be said, Rias was suddenly surprised when Naruto picked her up like a princess. "Even though I know that I'm going to have to meet my parents, I believe that I should stay with you first for the night," Naruto said as he turned around and unleashed his black flame wings where he took off with Rias in his arms. Watching the scene from above a balcony, Lord and Lady Phenex looked on in surprise as Naruto was taking off with Rias in his arms. They actually believed that Naruto would come up to them to talk things out. Before anyone could attempt to stop him, Surziches just walked up to the group. "Well, I'm glad that the results are now over with and the contract with Riser is nullified." "Just the contract with Riser?" Graphia mentioned in a pleasing tone. "Yes, since I'm pretty sure that Rias would want to keep the contract with Naruto active, given how close the two are," Surziches said before he looked at both lords and ladies of the Gremory and Phenex family. "Although, I must apologize to you for," he said where his father asked why he was apologizing. "I learned from my pawn, Beowulf, that he along with the other members of my peerage have spread word about Rias and Riser's marriage to everyone so they can also celebrate the special festivities. I guess word must have spread so fast that it reached Naruto-kun ears," pondered Surziches where everyone looked at him with a bit of confusion and wonder. Surzich-sama where he turned to Graphia, "Did you happen to be the one to tell them to spread the word out to everyone?" she asked her husband with a knowing look. "Now, what makes you say that?" Surziches responded where the parents now understand on how and why Naruto made his sudden reappearance back to the underworld. "In any case, even though it turned out like this, I can at least say that I hope my son, Riser, has learned a lesson on relying too much on our house's ability." Lord Phenex, which Lady Phenex also agreed. "The power of the dark dragon flame of Major Rebia the Sekirute emerging in as my sister's pawn, things are going to get interesting soon," Surziches muttered out to those who are able to hear it. They soon watched as Naruto just flew into the moonlight with Rias in his arms. Chapter end. Alright, that's it for today's video guys. Let me know in the comments section how was the story and also don't forget to like, share and subscribe. I will meet you in another video. Peace out.